imagine this. You've spent your entire life in somewhere that's dark and cramped, and every day people come in and do things that don't feel good to you. It's kind of like being tortured in some fashion or another. It does not feel good. Imagine that. Imagine that's been your entire life for as long as you have been alive. And now imagine also that this horrible existence you're living is going to be cut short. Your entire life is going to be cut short. Maybe that seems like a little bit of a relief, but at the same time, you kind of would like to have the chance to experience what life is like outside of this horrible, crowded, cramped torture chamber that you're living in. Are you with me? Okay. That is exactly what animals in the food agriculture industry experience every single day. And I'm sorry if that freaks you out. I'm sorry if this is a truth you don't want to confront, but it is a truth. And I think it's important to speak the truth. With that said, this is a place where if it freaks you out and it makes you uncomfortable, this is a place where you can let more compassion into your life. Maybe you're not ready to go vegan right away. That is okay. But it's a place where you can start to make some changes to allow more compassion in your life. So let me just tell you really quick about my vegan journey, because I was not one of those people that flicked a switch and went, okay, today I'm vegan, and in a year from today it'll be my vegan-versary. Nope. That's not how it works for a lot of people. That's okay. We do what we can when we can. There's a quote by Maya Angelou that I'm going to paraphrase because I don't remember the exact wording, but it's something about, I did the best I could when I knew what I did, and now that I know better, I'll do better. That's all I ever ask of people. Learn something, not increase your knowledge, open yourself up to understand how things are connected, and then have some more compassion in your life. That's it. So my vegan journey, it really kind of began in the womb, which I know sounds a little weird, but it really kind of did. So I was born about a week early, and the family joke has always been that I was trying to escape the gross food because the night before I was born, my parents had calamari for dinner, and I have never liked seafood. Ugh. And so it was always this family joke. And so I always say that's where my vegan journey started. I was already rejecting some sort of living animal food and was like, get me out. And then as a teenager, I think, I was enjoying something for dinner that my grandmother had made, and I commented how good it was. And she says, oh, it's lamb. And I was promptly horrified, put the rest in the sink, and I kind of barfed, I think, at least into my mouth. I was horrified, and I was like, I've never eaten that again. Do not ever make that for me again. That's terrible. I still didn't quite generalize it out and extrapolate it out into all of our animal kin yet. That's okay, right? Learned something, did something. So then in college, I learned about the environmental impacts of the beef industry. 33% of the crops that we grow in this country are used to feed animals that are used for food. We could be doing so much better things with that land. So I learned, and I also in college kind of connected that to, we could be feeding people. There are starving children all over the globe, including in the US, that could be fed with food that right now we're giving to animals that we're going to cut their lives short and we're torturing while they're alive just to have meat. It didn't make a ton of sense. So out went beef. Still, didn't quite connect it all yet. Wasn't quite there. Even though I started to learn about the egg industry and what they do to chickens, I kind of had the blinders on still. That's okay. We all go at our own pace. And then at some point in my early 30s, which was the beginning of my spiritual growth journey, I figured out all of these connections and I went, well, wait a minute. If it's not okay to do to cows, it's not okay to do to chickens. And oh, by the way, being raised Jewish, pig was never a part of my diet anyways, but it's not okay to do to them either. And if it's not okay to do to beef cows, it's also not okay to do to dairy cows. And And at that point, I didn't even realize what the dairy industry really was and how it's basically sanctioned rape and murder. But it is. And I will talk a little bit later on in this video about what actually happens in the dairy industry. But all of that, I was like, okay. And so away it all went. One thing at a time. The very, very last thing to go was poultry, and actually turkey specifically, because I was still using like ground turkey to make, turkey burgers or whatever. But one night I had this dream. It was really weird. I had this dream that there was turkeys that were trapped in my basement, and I had to somehow get them rescued. And I called in some sort of, turkey rescue person, and they got the turkeys and they're carrying them out. And as they're carrying out the turkeys, they like touched me. And in that moment in the dream, I just knew like I can't eat them anymore. And so I didn't. And I think at that point I was still doing dairy because it took me a little bit longer to understand that piece of it. But eventually that's where I got. And each one of those things, it was not a giving up. It was not a sacrifice. It was a welcoming in of compassion. It was a welcoming in of nurturing my connection to the greater whole and offering love and peace to other beings. It was never a sacrifice. So with that said, let's talk a little bit more about what happens to animals in the agriculture industry. As I had you imagine at the beginning of this video, it's very unnatural. They live in dark and cramped conditions, and even the ones who have access to the outside aren't treated in ways that are normal and expected for whatever their species is. We feed them in such a way that they are, and breed them in such ways that they put on weight or not put on weight in ways that we as humans think is desirable for whatever purpose. But they're not allowed to just exist the way they would normally exist in the egg industry. So chickens lay eggs to reproduce, and their instinct is to have a clutch of them because not all of the eggs will survive or turn into chickens. And so if somebody's coming in every day and taking those eggs, they lay more and more and more and more because they want to have a clutch. And when they come back and there's like, oh crap, there's no more eggs, they lay more and more and more. Now maybe that doesn't seem like a big deal if they're not fertilized, but here's the thing. And for you ladies, you'll understand this right off the bat. Do we love having our periods every month? Yeah, I didn't think so. So imagine you had to do that every day, multiple times a day, because somebody kept taking what was coming out of you. Not cool, right? The dairy industry. This is like, I think, the best kept secret ever, because the dairy industry's propaganda is phenomenal, right? Who remembers we got milk ads and stuff, right? Those all started in the 50s as propaganda to get milk in schools, where it remains today, and it's subsidized by our tax dollars. We get no say in that. Here's what happens. In order for a cow to give milk, to produce milk, she has to be pregnant. And has to have given birth, just like a human mama. So in order for that to happen, they don't just like put some cows in with a bowl and let nature take its course, because there'd be no guarantees that way, and they wouldn't be able to produce milk at the vast volumes that this country has come to depend upon. Instead, they have to forcibly extract the semen from the bowl. Now, whether that's through masturbation or through a needle, I don't really know, but either way, I think it's pretty gross. Monkey agrees. And then after they have that semen, they have to forcibly put it into the cow, which essentially is done by taking a long straw looking thing and shoving it in her and then putting the semen down it. Twice rape we've got there. And again, I'm sorry for the triggering language here, but I don't really know any other way to explain this. And then once that happens, she gestates and she gives birth to baby cow. And cows love their babies just as much as human mamas do. Yes, monkey agrees. But then what happens is, instead of allowing that baby cow to be reared by mama cow, because then we wouldn't get the milk. They take that baby. Now, if it's a female, she is hand raised by humans and then put into the same abusive system as mama. If it's a boy, that cow or bull is taken from mama, hand raised by humans, and shot as a very young child for veal. So even if you think, well, maybe I can still have milk, you're still sanctioning animal death. Maybe you didn't know that before. And if that's the case, hopefully now that you know better, you'll do some changes to be a little more compassionate. If you're not ready, that's okay. I'm not going to hate on you for it. But you need this information to make an informed decision, whatever that decision may or may not be. Kind of just touched on this a little bit, but animals are sentient beings. They have feelings just like we do. They feel joy, sadness, love, pain, all of those things. There have been stories, true stories, not pretend, but true stories of cows who have tried to hide their babies from the farmers because they know what's going to happen. Unfortunately, they're always found. You hear stories all the time, again, true stories all the time about animals on their way to the slaughterhouse who will jump off the truck. These trucks are awful, by the way, if you've never seen them driving down the road. They have very little air circulation and sunlight, and their animals are just packed in there like cargo. They have no access to food or water. It's terrifying. These animals are not used to riding around in the back of a vehicle in the first place. This is just one more terrifying thing in their existence. And some try to jump off. They would rather risk dying their own way than going to the slaughterhouse. It's awful, at least in my opinion. Again, you're welcome to form your own, but the idea here is to open yourself up to something that is more compassionate than the way that you have been living. There's also some huge environmental impacts to eating meat. So if you care at all about the environment, this part's for you. All right. So we talked briefly about how much of the cropland is used to feed animals, but did you also know that 25 or 6% of the planet's ice-free land is used to graze livestock? That's in addition to the 33% of all agricultural lands being used just to feed animals. That is a ton of space. We could be doing such amazing things with that land. We could leave it open and just natural for the wild habitat and the trees and all of that to just do their thing and let nature do nature. We could have it be mostly like that, but also kind of what we call in this area in Colorado, open spaces where you can kind of go as a human being and enjoy nature in nature's relatively untouched form. It's a little maintained. There's walkways through it and stuff like that, but it's relatively untouched. We could also use it to build eco-friendly, affordable housing and solve some of the housing crisis. We could do a combination of those things, and there's other solutions too. I'm sure you have some, and if you do, I would love to hear what they are in the comments. And it's just crazy to me that we're doing that. Never mind all of the pollution involved in farming with water use and contamination from farm runoff from both the crops, which have chemicals in the fertilizer, as well as actually from the animal feces that run off and get into the groundwater. There are also impacts to energy use. It's a big eco suck, basically. And if you want more information about that, I do have some on my website as well as in my online class if you are interested in more about that. There's also some amazing health benefits to becoming vegan. I know some of you are going to say I can't for whatever health reasons. I'm not going to get into those because I don't know your particular health circumstances. I am going to tell you what the science shows us. You're going to have to decide what makes sense for your life. First of all, it reduces the risk of chronic diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, high cholesterol, and some types of cancer even. It's also been shown to help with maintaining a healthy weight, healthy digestive tract, and increase energy levels. There's going to be a lot of people out there who say, well, what if this? What if this happens? those are all what ifs. I'm talking about society as we live in right now today. If any of those what ifs happen, and it's probably unlikely, but if those big what ifs happen, we're all going to have to re-look at what we believe and how we live anyways, including me. But for today, how society is shaped and formed right now, going vegan is one of the best ways that you can open yourself up to compassion for other living beings. You can help save the environment and the planet we live on, and you're doing a good thing for your body. It's kind of a win-win-win, at least in my book. You're welcome to disagree. You're welcome to have your own opinions. The point is to sit and think about what works for you, how much compassion you want to feel, and ways that you can open yourself up to that. As always, I encourage you to hit subscribe so that you will hear as soon, or be notified in some way, shape, or form as soon as I post any additional videos about this and other very interesting related topics. And I will see you soon.